Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is John Bunn and I'm flying solo today. I interviewed Atit Amin from Weekend Project Studios, an Indian wedding filmmaker charging upwards of $60,000 for wedding films and photos. Guys, such a great interview, such a great chat. I cannot wait to show you and let you listen to this episode. But first, I have to tell you about our good friends over at Wedditor. Wedditor have been editing my films exclusively since 2019, and I cannot say enough about how much I love working with their team of creatives and project managers to help me create incredible wedding films and give me back the time that I really want in my business. Wedditor is an outsourcing house. They take your films to the next level. They just got me back a wedding that I did in Tulsa, $1 million wedding, and the film is straight up fire. I cannot tell you how excited I am to share it with the couple, and honestly, I don't know what I would do in my business without Wedditor, so if you're on the fence about finding somebody, be sure to check out howtofilmweddings.com/Wedditor. Now, let's get into the episode with Atit Amin from Weekend Project Studios. All right. Well, welcome to the podcast, Atit Amin from Weekend Project Studios. You are here. Why don't you say hello, introduce yourself. Who do you work with? What's your company? Where are you at? Just give us all the details.
Appreciate it. So I'm Atit Amin here. I am the owner, founder, I guess, of Weekend Project Studios. I'm currently based out of Southern California. I am a luxury wedding photo videography company here. We are a team of 5. I've been doing weddings personally. It's just like a one-man band, but I do have a good crew with me. But I've been doing weddings since I would say 17 is my first official year, I would say. But been doing weddings since then, and I've been kind of specializing in that destination wedding videography market. I've been traveling to pretty much every wedding I've been going to. I've been traveling. Haven't got to Southern California just yet. I just moved in October, so that's a little bit about me. But I also do commercial videography as well. So I've been doing 2 kind of companies at once. So it's just been kind of every day is a busy. What kind of fire you want to put out today? But it's always been fun with this.
I love it. So you're currently in SoCal. You've been doing this since 2017. I'm guessing you probably did some camera work, different things before 2017. Like, how did you officially get into filming weddings? How did that look? What's that journey kind of look like?
I'll say, I'm not gonna lie. I think this is the best way to come out with the truth. I started my company on the most, not I would say unethical, but unethical way possible. So there's this app called Thumbtack. This is when I was sitting in my dorm room broke. I was just had no money in my bank account, and this is I'm South Asian, so like my Indian parents did not like the fact I went to school to play college football in a Christian liberal arts college. I was by myself really, so it's just like a whole bunch of like not me becoming a doctor, becoming a videographer is always the funny part of that story. But yeah, I was sitting in my dorm room broke. I'm like, there's a lot of people making money in videography in the film industry, all this, stuff. What's a very lucrative, safe kind of business that I can get into, that can kind of make sense for me to do it tomorrow type of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
weddings were like people kept saying weddings, weddings, weddings. So eventually, I got tired of waiting for weddings. I've been doing vlogs. Made a couple of short films, learned how to edit in the process. But in terms of trying to get my first client, it was tough. It was just like no one wanted to book me, no one wanted to trust me. I was willing to work for free. I was willing to so I can shoot for other people, and I was in a very I would say small, very small market in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, like not even in Pittsburgh, 1 hour north of Pittsburgh. So wedding videography was like the second afterthought. Like wedding photography was the keystone of everything. Like wedding videography wasn't really like people's agendas back then in 2017 in Pittsburgh at least. But I'm trying to figure out what to do to get myself in the market finally and tell people, hey, I want to do weddings.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a good start. I just posted there, and I've been on the brides like, hey, listen, I know your budget is like $250, $500, whatever, but I'm willing to do this for next to nothing just so I can get something on my portfolio. And I landed my entire wedding season on that app, and I would say did it correctly because like I said, I had no money, and the way Thumbtack works was you have to pay to bid for these jobs that someone posts if they need a videographer. So what I've done was, if you refer to a friend, you get like credit points, whatever. So I just referred all my homeboys, all my friends, my teammates, hey, just sign up for this app real quick. You'll help me a lot so much. And they all did, and then I get like free credits out of it, and that's how I was able to bid for the job. So, yeah, that was possibly the most not really good way to start, but I got it done. Is that's all that
That's
mattered.
it.
But
Yeah.
so yeah, I was ending up with 8 weddings that season from not shooting any weddings at all. I've just been completely honest with the brides, and like they just gave me the full trust. They liked the little vlogs I made on YouTube. They're like, "This kind of be sick," and I guess at that point, beggars can't be choosers when you had like $250 as your videography budget. So they're like, we'd rather have this guy than like, a 4 hour VHS tape of like our wedding. So I'm like, yeah, that's the people you get on Thumbtack. But yeah, and then after that, I started getting into that referral pool, and then after that, I was just I had this one viral video before TikTok, YouTube, and everything. It was partially YouTube, but on Facebook, I filmed this barn wedding in West Virginia, middle of nowhere. I was wearing a full suit back then. Like, if I show you a picture, I might have to send you a picture to see what I look like dressing up to these weddings. But that video did 100,000 views on Facebook, and West Virginia is the one that really kickstarted my career. Because if you like look at the weddings I do now, you can kind of trace it back to that barn wedding in West Virginia. But it was a gorgeous wedding. It was a family wedding in their backyard barn, and it was just a gorgeous wedding. But yeah, that wedding kind of kicked off my career, and then now we're talking on how to film wedding podcasts.
Well, I love. I don't necessarily feel like it's unethical to get your homeboys to sign up. I mean, they don't have any rules against that. I think that's bootstrapping
They
it and
patched
like.
it though. They knew something was up when this kid was
Wait a
getting
sec.
5,000 credits for nothing.
That makes sense. A
Yeah.
couple of things that you hit on. You said you got it done, and I think that's really what I've seen with people that are really successful in this business is they don't just say, "Well, there's a hurdle. Sorry, I can't do it." There's I don't have any weddings booked, so I just will wait till I get a wedding book. He's like, no, I'm gonna figure out how to get it done. Maybe you had what I like to call a hustle foul, or you jumped off sides, something trying to do what you could to get Thumbtack credits because you didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. But it's like I'll ask for forgiveness, not for permission, maybe a little bit, but you got it done.
Yeah.
And you said you got 8 weddings, you got next to nothing, and you saw it. It seems like your mindset was like, if I can just get these weddings on my portfolio, then I can start charging for these things. But it's the chicken or the egg. Which one comes first? How can I get these weddings if I don't have any weddings to show? And so it's fun to see how people will do stuff like that. And then you said like this West Virginia film. I just keep thinking of the song West Virginia. Anyway, the West Virginia film, it was obviously like a really nice wedding and it went viral. And then people obviously say, oh, well, this guy does these weddings. And now, why don't you explain a little bit of kind of where your business has gone since then? I know we talked before we hit record about the ridiculous amounts that you're charging these days, the kinds of weddings you're doing. Why don't you just paint like a pretty solid picture of just where is, Weekend
Yeah.
Project Studios today? What's it look like? What you're charging? Where are you going?
Yeah, so the pathway from that West Virginia $500 wedding to me charging like this weekend is going to be one of my bigger contracts, but $65,000 from 500 to 65,000 in a matter of like less than 5 years is that's still kind of like hasn't really hit me yet, but just like oh, I mean, like it just what happened was I would say COVID was honestly a restart point as well for me. So it's just like all that cancellations, reschedules. I kind of knew like if I'm going to do weddings, I have to learn, two different things. Like there's two different things in terms of any business. Like if you want to make a living or you want to make money, that's the two things that people got to differentiate, I would say. And then at that point before COVID, I was just filming weddings, like packages, like kind of like a McDonald's type of thing, just quality and like not quantity versus like quality and just like getting as much bookings as possible. And and then COVID taught me that's not a way a business should run if you're like, not trying to, I'm not saying I want to try to make money, but I definitely wanted to do like the best quality work. And by
Mhm.
doing that, you should really limit the quantity you do. And that's like the mentality I went after COVID is just because I knew like weddings could be gone in a flash, and like people have to pivot the business. Because even without COVID, knock on wood, if you're a one man band like me, like anything could happen, and then that's your day to day, like everything, it just goes gone. And that's what I wanted to pivot, where it's just I do more quality work by taking on less weddings, and then having to go in a route to make more money that way by charging a lot more to kind of get a suffice on two different things. So to get to that point of charging $65,000 for this like weekend, you still had to understand how to get a portfolio like that. So in 2021, I knew I needed to have a new clientele, I would say, outside that, Pittsburgh market, because Pittsburgh, the highest you will probably pay for videography, and I was at that point was $8,000. You might get a nice little $10,000 videographer a little bit outside, maybe Chicago or somewhere in that Midwest area. But I just knew Pittsburgh, the clientele was just not there for me to, get to a point to get over that 5-figure hump. So I just knew like I need to find new clients, and then Thumbtack is not going to pay me for a $10,000 client anytime soon. So I couldn't go back on
That would
there
be
either.
awesome.
But yeah. So I knew I had to get creative in terms of trying to find new clientele. TikTok was popping off like out the wazoo at that point in 2021. So I just knew if I had one, and it like I just knew in my head, because like if I can get one viral video, it will be a game changer. So that's what I did. I just made a funny viral video, and I just somehow knew. Like no one told me if this was going to go viral or not. I just knew in my head for some reason it was going to go viral. But I did like that trend is like what people think I was like when I tell them I'm a videographer. Like I look like a guy in a suit. Like I got stock photos of like a bald videographer and all this, and like terrible work on stock images. And then I showed off my actual work, and the floodgates opened, and everyone reaching out, asking to go to weddings in Italy, there. And then I just knew in my head, it's like, I can't say yes to all these, because, the end goal was to, be in this, higher end market. Not I would say luxury market, but higher end market. So, eventually, so like until that point, so like I said, I'm Indian. I was, I'm still Indian now, but like, being South Asian, like it's funny because I never filmed this. I only filmed one South Asian wedding, and that was the only wedding I ever filmed, in my career until 2021. I had this couple reach out to me from Columbus, Ohio, and they're like, "Yeah, we love your work," and they just were mind boggled that I never filmed an Indian wedding, being Indian myself, like being the same culture as them. But they trusted me on the vision because they knew, one was Columbus, Ohio. There's a lot of videographers out there, but there's just not many, I would say. But they trusted me, and I got that booking. And then eventually, one Indian wedding turned into, my entire wedding season. Besides 3 weddings, I think 4 weddings this year are South Asian weddings. So that's what I did. I'm doing 10 weddings this year. Last year I did 20 though, but majority of them were South Asian weddings. So
Mhm.
I was saying that one was a game changer because the Indian community is kind of small, and that way, like if you're doing one wedding, people would know you right away. And like I was very lucky because that friend group, everyone was getting married in that friend group, so it was very helpful for me just because.
Yep.
There's like, we need a videographer. Like, you're good. Like, look, can we book you? I'm like, great, this is perfect. But I got lucky there in that terms, because if I turned that wedding down, we probably won't have this conversation, because this wedding this weekend had that connection to that Columbus, Ohio wedding. So like, it's always that referral pool as well. But that's what I've done, I would say, to this
Mhm.
point. And now going forward, though, that friend group is like everyone's married now. It's like there's not much referral pool in that one, I would say. But um, now I'm working with a lot of planners. I'm working with a lot of people that's seen my work and having that good portfolio. And I do have a lot of people reaching out, but Michael is definitely that quality versus quantity. Is definitely I turn down, I'll say maybe 80% of weddings that come my way now. But even if it's higher budget, I'm just looking at where can it lead me afterwards. And like for every wedding I take on, I'm hoping to get at least 2, 3 clients out of that. That's like where I'm going in terms of that, because I pay $0 in marketing. I don't see myself paying for like the Google stuff or all that SEO stuff, but that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking to get the backlog out of the way as well because, like I said, ever since post COVID, the backlog was like I was filming, the 2021 into 2022, and then now I got 2021 done last November. So just wrapping it up. Luckily, with the 10 weddings, I'll say I hope a lot, but that's what we're working on now is just getting the backlog and start revamping like everything and just posting a lot of content because I don't really post a lot, and that's always like a good thing I would like to say is just because you don't need to post a lot to get a lot of bookings, and I think that's always a conception is like I need a viral video here and there, and like if you want to try to do viral videos, they'll help you. But I got actually, I would say the worst clients out of TikTok than the best clients. Luckily, there was that like I said, group of 2 or 3 that helped me out. But I got like there was so many like 99. They wanted to like fly me out to like middle of nowhere Kentucky for like $2,000 and kept emailing me like once a week. I'm like, how do I Google like how to block an email? Like you get like the worst clients sometimes as well. So you gotta understand what you're trying to attract here. What post you typically attract as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I have to unpack the thing that you just kind of slid by. 65K. What? Excuse me, baking powder. Wait. Okay. Let's. There might be some people out there saying, "Yeah, right. Yeah, right."
That's what I said. Like the first person that I like this 2017 Ray Roman. I don't want to name drop people, but Ray Roman was the first guy that, and I think that's the problem with the industry is like no one talks about pricing enough. Ray Roman was the first guy, and the whole entire industry like to say I charge in the 5-figure range. And as this time, I was a college student charging $1,800 because that's what the girls at Wedding Wire told me to charge, like $1,800. There's no way I'm charging $10,000 for a wedding video. And yeah, that's the thing. It's just like if people don't go out here and tell what they charge, that's the problem because no one will believe it, right? So I know people that actually charge $100,000 for a wedding video, and until I heard that, I still don't believe they charge $100,000. But here I am charging well above 5 figures. I understand what the logic of money is because this is someone's yearly salary right here just for one weekend, but yeah, it's just I think that's the problem I think with the industry. We need to talk about pricing more because when I first started out in Pittsburgh, the issue was that, like I said, the Wedding Wire girls like I said I should charge $1,800, and that was a tragic nightmare because I got a wedding season out of that. But one guy, I was on a Facebook group on like local wedding videographers. Some girl was getting married in the Catskill Mountains. I'm like, hey, I'm charging 1,800, whatever, put in there. Some guy messaged me. He's like, bro, I'm going to pay you $1,800 to take the weekend off. And he was a true homie for like just reaching out and like calling me out. He's like, I'm going to pay you to take the weekend off. You charge way less than me, and your work is. And he said my work was better than his, but he's like, you're ruining my like weekends. Like this is what I do for a living. He was calling me out, like just like insulting me after that. But 5 years later, like I think I was charging $8,000 in Pittsburgh, and he screenshot a message. I told him I don't think I will ever charge above 5,000 in Pittsburgh. He screenshotted that message. Look, because at the time I did have my pricing on the website. He's like, "Look at you now." And I'm
That's
like,
incredible.
okay, you win, buddy." Yeah, but
Dude,
yeah,
okay. So 65K. That's I'm guessing your biggest that you've charged for a wedding to date. Is that correct, or have you booked? You said that was like your biggest one, or
next year I have a $75,000 wedding.
okay.
I have but it is that one next year is a hefty one though. It's 2 weekends, 2 countries, a lot of people, a lot of manpower. So it was a bigger contract, but it's not, I would say, much if I made it like that quote would have been much if they did it like very small, but it was a very big wedding in India next year. So we got that one.
I love it. Okay. So I want to break down in a sec, what that what you're giving the couple for this weekend, for 65K, but we need to run to break real fast. I know you need to restart your camera here soon. So we're going to talk with Atit about how he is charging 65K for weddings right after this break. If you are like most wedding filmmakers, you are constantly fighting against being completely overwhelmed from your backlog. We get it, and that is why we are so excited to bring you howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing, a brand new place for you to find some of the best editors on the planet to help you get out from under the weight of your backlog. And the best part is we have personally vetted these companies to ensure that you aren't wasting your time finding editors. Whether you are looking for full-blown editors like Wedditor or brideandgroom.video, or if you're just needing someone to cull your films like Wedding Post House, we have a solution for you. So head over to howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing to check out our curated list of outsourcing experts today. That's howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing. All right, we are back from break with Atit Amin from Weekend Project Studios. He's here, was just kind of casually walking by a wedding he's doing this weekend, said $65K. I don't believe him. You don't believe him. I'm just kidding. I believe you. What does the deliverable look like? Are you doing video and photo for that? Or are you doing just video?
Both. So this one is both photo and video. And the thing with my pricing structure is way different than I'll say 99% of videographers, just because I like to say it. I stole this from a custom home builders, like how they quote people. I literally type in custom home builders Excel sheet, quote like Excel sheet, and kind of spent in a whole entire day figuring it out, because my issues with South Asian weddings, especially, it's multiple days. And at the time, like in 2021, when I started doing more Indian weddings, I was just charging packages. And packages is just, every Indian wedding was different, and every wedding is different. And it's just like I said, I was just like, one of my friends who does custom quotes, she told me, you're not McDonald's. You cannot be charging people combo meals when people want something else. And that, she just made logical sense when she brought that up. I'm like, you're right. People don't want a package 5 with a 15-20 minute video. And the problem is you also cap yourself at a certain limit as well. So I could have been making way more money back, if I'd never offered package in the first place. If I were in a better spot to do that. It was packages are a safe bet. Don't get me wrong. I've been doing it for 4 years. Like, packages are the way to go, especially when you're starting out. Easy for the clients. They see on the price on the website. They won't email you until they see the packages, whatever. So that way, like, communication, it was great. It was great. But problem is, like, if someone had a $10,000 budget and you cap out at $8,000 and they found a package even less than that, they're going to take that money somewhere else. And that was a problem I was facing. And a lot of other people in the luxury market were telling me, hey, this is why we don't do packages. And it just made logical sense. So the one thing I do differently is, like, if you add more coverage to your wedding, it should affect the time it takes to edit that film 100%. So why is your videographer, like, let's say if you're charging $5,000 for an 8 to 10 minute film and you're adding more coverage, shouldn't that affect the price of the video, because you're taking a lot more time to edit because you have more clips? And that's the one thing I've done differently, is like quote based on the coverage and deliverables. So both have a factor to, like, the pricing. So that's why I did a custom, looked up custom home builders quoting, because that's how they do it. It's just like, when they have more of a budget to build a custom home, they don't have a limit on their, like, the amount. They always keep adding stuff on, but they really add on, the labor costs and all that. So they have a factor of, cost of, like, all right, if you're going to get this really big house, this is what it's going to cost in terms of the coverage. So I kind of reverse that. It's like, all right, this is what the coverage is going to cost. This is what the end product's going to be with that pricing. So that's what I done with that. It's just like, every wedding was different. So I was quoting based on hours, the number of team members, and the deliverables. And for this one, the deliverables, I can pull up the actual final invoice here, and we can run down the numbers here actually. That way we can just understand what in the world are they getting for 65,000. So this one here, I don't have that quote, but I have this quote for a wedding next year. So they have 12 hours of coverage. And with the bigger packages, I do offer a complimentary travel engagement session. So this is how I kind of travel the world for literally for free as well, because like I did on engagement sessions all throughout the world. We can talk about that a little bit later, but I offer that one of the bigger packages, but normally that's the add-on. But this one is going to be 22 hours of coverage. So when people book me versus the final timeline, they really don't know where to put the hours at. So I really just put all the hours together for now. And then we worry about diverting that later. And they have a set rate. Let's say if they need to add more hours when the final timeline is complete. Like this weekend, I had to invoice them. This is how it became. It didn't originally was a $65,000 contract. It was just a regular, I think, had to add additional 12 hours of coverage because they didn't know that till the planner came in and like, listen, T, we need to add more hours and a lot more hours. I'm like, it's going to cost a lot more. And they're like, yeah, just send the invoice. And I'm like, great.
That's
They're
awesome.
getting eight. They're getting eight in terms of the actual deliverables. So that's like I said, the 22 hours. We're gonna have 3 people on one day and then 4 people on the next day. So there's gonna be 2 days of coverage, and then there's actually a two. So the way why this wedding is so much is 2 weekends. So I made them almost charge. I almost charged them double because essentially they were taking another $30,000 away from me. Essentially, if someone else wanted to book that date, and it's June dates, they're very prime time dates. So kind of that's why it was up in that market, but I charged them for the additional weekend, so they're getting this weekend and next weekend. So that's really what that in terms of why now it makes sense for a lot of people, but like that's why it was up in that higher pricing. But they have 3 people for the next weekend, so that's the coverage amount.
Hmm.
And then in terms of video, they got 2 videos. They got a highlight film and a long feature film. So I have 2 different styles, like that you probably saw. Like my longer films
Hmm.
are about 12 to 15 minutes long, and my shorter films are 3 to 4 minute long. And then if you get one or the other, that's also deliverable. And they get photography as well, so they get the online gallery, and then they do prints and all of that at a discounted rate. So that way, I still make money after the wedding as well. Like I still have this client from December that every month, for some reason, they still order prints. Like once a month, they order at least like $200 to $300 worth of prints. I'm like, this is passive income now, but
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't expect that for every client. But yeah, they were just kept buying prints every month. But yeah, that's the breakdown of this weekend, and then yeah, that's really what's it for this month, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so you mentioned it. I want to come back to it too. First of all, thanks for being transparent about numbers and stuff. And it's like people are like, whoa, 65K, or like my wedding this last weekend was almost 20K, and it was like 2 full days of shooting, which is like 2 wedding days, you know. And so people are like, how are you charging that? A lot of times it's the extra days, it's the extra excursions, it's the extra sessions, it's the extra. But I do think that you're right that one of the reasons that How to Film Weddings has been successful is that we dig deep with people and just say, hey, what are you charging? How are you doing it? And so I appreciate your transparency, because I do want people to see, whoa, this is possible. And you're only, what, 5 years, 6 years into doing these weddings. And it's like you started bootstrapping, you figured out a way to get going, you had a mindset that was more long term thinking instead of short term thinking. You realized you had to say no, and then you took advantage of any hand that you were dealt. And so it's inspiring to hear people's stories, and that's why we love seeing that transformation from $250 thumbtack ad to $75,000 world travel wedding with video and photo. So that's very cool. I did want to. You said you offer an engagement session complimentary, so you're doing video and photo for those, I would assume.
Yeah,
And you said you're
yeah.
traveling the world for free. So you build that kind of into this price. Where do those take you? What does that look like? How do you kind of practically navigate getting those on your schedule and making sure that you can do those? What is it? Is it included in the deliverable? Like, what do those look like?
Yeah, so last year was a nightmare. I think this year is a little bit more settled, taking 10 weddings versus like last year. But last year, for example, like I was shooting a wedding, and like last year I took 132 flights alone. And the year before that, I think I took 120 flights, 2021. So I've been traveling a lot, and I do a lot of commercial work as well. So in commercial videography world and then wedding videography world, it's just like never merged. But the perfect example was like the day of a wedding. I was supposed to fly out for an engagement session in Lake Tahoe the next day, and my flight got canceled for some reason on the wedding day. So I was like, during like our little dinners, and this was a middle of nowhere wedding as well. So I had barely no service. Like, if the only place to get service is if we step outside. So I was like quickly rebooking, but Yeah, no, it's a lot of trying to find the sweet spots in there. Like especially with my clients being, most of them are doctors, lawyers as well, busy people. So trying to find those wiggle rooms in the schedule. So when I do engagement sessions, I want to make sure I'm not in like regular, like someone's hometown. Like nothing wrong with that, but you're not going to fly me out for your hometown, right? You're going to find a local photographer for like $500, right? You're not going to have me just to do your engagement session in Columbus, Ohio. So I do it in a way that a sense of trying to get value for people because this is the only time where people are going to get like professional photos done of themselves that's not in a wedding environment, right? Casual clothes, traveling. So I pitch it as like third wheeling with a professional like photographer. That's really what it is. So we're just professional third wheelers. That's what our job is. So
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, so I just pitch it as that, and a lot of people do pick out when they have sweet spots in their schedules to go on vacation, and then just fly me out with them, kind of. So, like I said, professional third wheeler. So the perfect example is like 2 weekends ago, I flew to Seattle, and we did a lot of stuff in the mountains, and last year I've done crazy stuff. Mexico, I went to Utah a few times for engagement sessions. Mostly did one all the way to Hawaii just for engagement sessions as well. That was also mind-boggling to me. But in terms of trying to navigate with that, I always recommend if you're traveling, if you're doing a lot of weddings, get a good travel agent because it helps a lot and doesn't cost that much when you think about it. You just make a phone call, give them your schedule, and they will literally book everything. And they're not booking like first class on Delta. Like I have stats with Delta, so I don't need that. But they typically just book you the cheapest flights anyway, and like they'll find stuff in your schedule. They send you the invoice and everything, and it's just like perfect. It's also I think getting a good travel agent helped. Last year I did everything by myself. 2021 I had a travel agent, but it was a night and day difference on like if I were to do 20 weddings again, I would definitely get a travel agent this time. But yeah, it's a lot of trying to find wiggle spots in your schedules and trying to find good sweet spots to travel to those places. But the perfect example is like a lot of these couples do like a joint bachelor and bachelorette party, and it's cool places Mexico. So my first like travel engagement session was that sweet couple from Columbus, Ohio. Originally, when I signed on with them, they're like, "Hey, we're having our bachelor and bachelorette party in Mexico. Or would you mind capturing it there?" I'm like, "Do you guys want me to capture the party?" They're like, "Sure." And for some reason, in 2021, I thought this was just a good idea. But if you see the video, it actually goes really well. So what happened was I flew to Cabo, and the bride had her bachelorette party in Cancun. So she flew to Cabo with the fiance, and we did their engagement session all through Cabo, and then she flew to Cancun. I stayed with the boys for 3 days, and after 3 days, I flew over to the girls for the weekend, and we went on a yacht and stuff like that. I went clubbing, and I'm like, what is life now? But I filmed all of it and put it in the wedding video, and it turned out great because how I kind of did it was introduce the characters because that the speeches from that wedding was just so hand in hand, and like you had to just watch it, and it just fit perfectly in the wedding video. But they were like, "Bro, don't post any of this." And if we were showing this video to our parents, don't post any of this. I'm like, "Don't worry, this is gonna look good. Just trust me on the process."
I love that. And that's something that I think we've been talking about a lot is like kind of getting outside of the box when it comes to like, yeah, I film for 6 hours or 8 hours on a wedding day. I deliver a 4 minute film. And why are my films feeling flat or why are they feeling like nothing? They just kind of feel vanilla. It's like, I mean, if you're adding a week of travel to Mexico in two different locations and it's like all the rage to be a destination wedding filmmaker because you get more than just the wedding day. You get more. Our friend Chris with Good Co Studios, he adds story sessions to like every one of his packages, and he will fly out and do a story session in your city with you or different. And just like thinking creatively, like what can be done, allows you to stand out from the crowd. And obviously, it's working for you and causing the upward spiral that every year spits off higher and higher end clients, and they see, oh my gosh, well, Jimmy and Susie did that wedding like that. I want to hire Atit to do this over here, and this. Oh, we're going to this ridiculous place, and wherever we're going to do a skydive off the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Let's go, or whatever. That's the kind of stuff where it's just like when you start to show what you want to shoot, you start to get more of what you want to shoot. I did want to circle back around. You said you're still Indian, that which is true. Yeah, you're still Indian. Uh, with your background, I wanted to talk to you because for me, I think that with How to Film Weddings, we try to really showcase different people doing different kinds of things. And you said like your parents, wanted you to do one thing, wanted you to be, doctor, lawyer, and that's pretty standard when it comes to what we've seen with our friends that are, our Indian friends. Like, yeah, my parents are not happy that I'm doing video. What was a little bit of that story? I'd love to transition to that. Like, what was your upbringing? What are your parents? What they want you to do? What do they think now? Like, what's that like?
I remember this. So recently, last year, I bought my mom a car, a brand new car. Her car broke down, but let's bring it to the story of that car that broke down. I remember vividly 5 years ago, being in that car and telling my mom, like, I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be, a marine biologist. That's what I was kind of aiming at that point. I'm just like, I don't want to run a 7-Eleven or anything like that. It's just, I told her I wanted to be a filmmaker. And then it was funny because in that story, we're driving. She was just upset. She was just like, it was almost a silent ride home. But she called one of my very close family, like her really close family friend, and she was like trying. There's this one friend that like they knew that was also Indian, but shoot for like the Jacksonville Jaguars on the sideline. So it's like, all right, let's listen to how miserable. And she was trying. She was open minded because like NFL photographers make a lot of money, sort of. I guess I'm not too familiar with
Hmm.
that, but um, she was open minded to at least bring that up, to bring a real life, actual human that situation. It's just like, okay, I kind of want to listen to how's he's doing as well. So we called her up, and my mom like tried like this, and my mom, my like family friend person was like, I'm not entertaining this. If this is what he wants to do and he wants to be happy with it, why can't you like support him? My mom hung up, and yeah, we had a silent ride home. But yeah, no, I also play college football, which is kind of tough with the weddings as well in the fall. I had a whole story with that. But yeah, no, I was just like kind of by myself. And my brother, I would say he's like the godsend child. He works for NASA. But the funny part is like me, I make more than him than he works in NASA, but he works for NASA. But
That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
it was just a lot of stories with that too, like conflicting. Like my parents just really didn't support it. And then I had to ask my dad how to pay taxes because at this point I was making more than my college professors at that point. And that was a low key flex as well because everyone knew about that in college, but everyone hated me for that as well. But my dad's like, you don't make enough money anyway. Like, why do you pay taxes? And then he saw like the year in my bank account, like what it was, and he's like, yeah, we'll get you a CPA. This is more than I make. But yeah, that was a tough story until the money came. It wasn't really outside support, but it was like I did definitely bet on myself, and definitely I hope they think I won, but definitely think it was a tougher path to get in. But that's why I wanted to be very transparent with the pricing stuff like that because there's probably some Indian kid that doesn't think they can make more than a person that works at NASA. That's just that I'm
Hmm.
blessed to say that, but a lot of times when you think of videographers, like in terms of the Indian culture, they want you to be a doctor, of course, a lawyer, probably number like 5 or 6, a business owner, all the way to the bottom, maybe like a gas station employee, all the way bottom there, maybe like terrorism, ISIS, and then you can be a videographer. Like that's how like
Jeez.
Indian culture works. It's just like it's really bad to tell people you want to be creative, but I've been very successful at it, and like my parents love the success story now. I was just like, at first, it was just hard because there is a lot of videographers that don't make money. I don't give them the benefit of the doubt. They came all the way from India to America to give themselves a better life, and then finding out that videographers don't make a lot of money. That's like their misconception, and that
Hmm.
was the problem. I think is like they only thought videographers were broke, and like there's a lot of videographers that unfortunately do not make money and I do want to change that transparency where it's just like I think the most needed job in the world right now are creators. I think everything is run by picture and images, even if it's not wedding related. Like marketing, everything you think of is run by some sort of image. So I think the photographers and videographers are more needed nowadays than anything else, especially with the everything is on content, this and that. And I think that's the misconception that needs to be changed is like videographers can make a lot of money. And like if someone told me like to my parents, videographers can make upwards of $500,000 a year, like my parents would not believe that. But like that becomes the norm where videographers, salaries are six figures. Like that conversation would probably been different 5 years earlier when that. But it was just so funny that I bought my mom a car from all the money I made in videography. Then from the car when I told her I want to be a videographer, that broke down. It was just a full circle moment. So it was a cool story, but yeah, it was ironic that if I listened to my mom and didn't become a videographer, that new car wouldn't have happened. But yeah, no, that's usually what it takes in terms of that. You just have to bet on yourself. Don't listen to anyone, including your parents, like around you, and just trust the process. Because if you're willing to put in the work and hours, and I know it becomes cliche because I've heard it a million times, but I still don't believe it. But if you're willing to put works and hours, you'll find a way to, become successful. But you have to be patient. I think that's the biggest thing.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that because I know that that's real life stuff. And you said your parents immigrated here. They want to bring you and give you a better life. We see and hear the stories, just of forcing kids to do, go to that medical route or go to whatever, and it's, this is what's expected from you. And that is in itself, so hard to break out from with your parents. I'm sure that there was a lot of angst and a lot of stress there. But you bet
Yeah.
on yourself. And so thanks for sharing that. Because I do think that there are people out there that are listening, whether you're, whatever your background is, that maybe you're like, well, I can't do this because I, fit this box. That's not the traditional this or that, whatever it is, instead of just betting on yourself and being like, no, this is possible. This is something I can do. You can't just show up and get there, but like you can tell you've put in the time, the work, the patience to get to that point.
And I think like my parents are just a bunch of hypocrites for saying like not trusting myself to become a video because they came to America with no English, no money, and they risked it all from their comfortable hometown lives and moved to America with literally nothing. And then when I told them I'm a videographer, they had the audacity to call me crazy. That's the funny part of the story. But I think there's lots of success stories out there, and you hear it enough where it's like Steve Jobs said it best: the people that built your iPhones are no smarter than you. And that quote I kind of live by, like just the fact like if something is like difficult for me, I just always think to myself like someone with my skill set did that. So it's just like no matter what I see, yeah, there's people who are gifted in certain areas, but I think everyone was born with the different abilities, of course, but I feel like everyone was born equally as like in terms of opportunities and stuff. It can be about when you look at it in different ways. You can't just look at where I came from because I came from literally we're good in the middle class, but like in terms of camera gear and stuff like that, I was on my own for that. So it's just like we had no money to buy expensive cameras and stuff like that. Like my first wedding videography camera was, it's in the closet here, but it's like a broken T4i used on eBay. I used literally everything in my bank account to get that camera. That was my first wedding videography camera. And I learned that luckily, like Craig Adams, like I said, the whole thing. His biggest nightmare was SD cards and batteries. So I made sure when I had my first deposit for a wedding, that was all I'm buying. I bought like 8 batteries, like 20 SD cards, but like, the success stories come multiple ways. Like it doesn't matter like where you come from, it matters how you're going about it. That's how I think of life. And I'm not a philosopher by any means, but I knew I came with challenges though, and if I knew the ability of other people can overcome it, there should be no excuses on why you shouldn't like overcome, trying to be a wedding filmmaker and going that path as well.
Dude, that is very inspiring. It sounds like it could be a movie. Sounds like a playwright. No, I love it. I love that story. I love that you scratched and clawed your way there, and you deserve all the success that you have. And watching you from afar, on Instagram over the last few months, just kind of seeing what you're doing, it is inspiring. I'm inspired by the conversation. If somebody is out there and maybe they want to, I know you said you're doing a lot of Southeast Asian weddings, a lot of Indian weddings. We definitely need to have you back on to kind of just dive into some of the ins and outs. But before we wrap up today, like any advice or thoughts for people that because a lot of people in our Facebook group or different groups are like asking, hey, I don't know how to quote this Indian wedding. I don't know how to shoot this Indian wedding. I don't know a mindset. If people are trying to get into that market, which is a humongous market where they spend a ton of money that just seems very untapped, what advice, what steps would you give to people out there that are like, this is something I want to do. This is something I want to like start figuring out. Do you have any just like big brother advice? If somebody's thinking about getting into doing some more of these types of weddings?
Yeah, so I can only give advice on my path because I feel like there's a way to pursue Indian weddings, but unfortunately on my end, even for me being Indian, I never done an Indian wedding until Indian wedding came to me. So I can't give advice on saying how to pursue Indian weddings, but I would say like if you have the opportunity to shoot one Indian wedding for sure, try your best to take it on. Maybe even take an L on it just to get one on your portfolio because it's very lucrative, but I will say there is a very big downside. So there's more additional coverage. I would say there's culturally you're facing a lot more challenges than traditional Western weddings for sure. A lot more challenges in terms of pricing, in terms of what kind of clientele. There's some clients that are willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on you. There's some clients that they were willing to pay money, like, but they're trying to find save ways to save money as well. It's just like you're facing two different battles for sure. But my biggest advice is definitely in terms of shooting it, definitely be open-minded to it. You're going to be experiencing a culture shock immediately. I grew up with it, so it's not like a shock to me, of course, but when I bring on new team members that never shot an Indian wedding, they're so intrigued, so interested. And that's why I kind of, when I hire people for like second shooting me on Indian weddings, I kind of find people that never really shot Indian weddings before because I like how they shoot because they overshoot everything first off, but they're very detailed oriented versus me. I kind of know what I'm shooting nowadays, but that's the one thing. Make sure you shoot absolutely everything because you don't know what's important, what's not important. But make sure you're also very communicative with the client. Make sure you set the bars for yourself, and then obviously try to go about it as well. But make sure communication. Just be honest up front. Hey, I never shot an Indian wedding before. I'm very open to it, but definitely need to put that on the page because setting false expectations is the problem that I faced when I first done my first Indian wedding. They're expecting this and that, and then I was just like, "Oh no, I missed this. I didn't know I was supposed to capture that." Even for me being Indian, like it was tough. But every Indian wedding is different. Like I never had two Indian weddings that were identical because now it's like because Indian weddings, people always think it's like culturally like the same, like in terms of like the same Hindu wedding. There's different traditions within that ceremony. There's two different cultures. Like it's always going to be different. So make sure you never, especially if you shot maybe one or two Indian weddings, never go about it thinking you're done it before because you will see new shit every wedding. And it's like that's the fun part of Indian weddings as well. But be open minded. Just try to capture everything. Just make sure and stay hydrated. Get a lot of liquid IV. It is a long day. Like you're gonna get 16-hour days. You start 6 a.m. You won't end till like midnight. So make sure you're aware of that as well. Body and mentality, like you're dead. Get late checkout if possible in the hotel next day. But that's my biggest advice is just making sure if you are able and blessed to have the opportunity, take it, go about it, and make sure you just come prepared. That's the only two really words of wisdom I can give there. But I can definitely break it down on another podcast of what's into an Indian wedding for sure, and like if someone needs to know the step by step, go have them reach out on Instagram. I can definitely break it down even for them on there. But you got to make sure you understand what you're trying to get yourself into. It's not about the money. At the end of the day, when you think about all the coverage and how long it takes to make the video, you're probably almost when you're starting out, you're probably going to make less than minimum wage after the deliverables. So don't go into thinking, okay, this is my biggest wedding because that is how I got my worst client. Indian client. She sent me back like Excel sheets on like revisions, and there was like 30 revisions. But like, it's also that factor. Is it's like don't look at with the money. The money is not worth it at the end of the day. But if you're in that space, you're gonna make a lot of money for sure. That's a key factor.
We'll definitely have you back on to just like break down filming Indian weddings and going deeper because I think we could, spend hours talking about that. It is culturally, I've done 10 or 15 at this point. Just so great, so fun to like see just the color involved, the flowers, the decor, the different
It's a
ceremonies.
party. It's they like Indian weddings. They put on a show for like the friends and family. You get dance performances. You'll get stuff you've never seen before, and like having to explain that over and over again to like new shooters is always fun, just because they don't believe you when I tell them like this is a show. You're not filming a wedding. You're filming a show. Like yeah, there's a ceremony and a reception, but like with these dance performances, like how people are meeting each other, you're filming a live at like party. Like this is not a wedding.
Yeah, no,
That's
and
also good advice. Just don't look at it as a wedding. Look at it as a show. That's what it is.
I love it. No. Okay, so you mentioned it if people wanted to reach out to you, but like, where's the best spot on social media, best website? Hit us with links for people to, if they want to get in touch with you after watching and listening to this.
Yeah, the best way to probably reach out to me is on Instagram. I have two Instagrams. One's my wedding account, one's my personal account. My personal account is probably the best way to reach me if you're just looking for advice, content, whatever. I post all my commercial work on there, but my wedding account is Weekend Project Studios. So it's Weekend Project Studios. And then my Instagram is Atit.Amin. If you want to see the first viral TikTok, I'm also on TikTok. I don't post a lot on there, but I'm also on TikTok. If you wanted to see that, for example, of what TikTok I made that went dummy viral and got me a lot of bookings and onto this podcast, of course. But those are the three socials I would say. A lot of my work is on weekendprojectstudios.com. If you wanted to see, if you wanted to watch one of my Indian weddings and just break it down. My style is, I would say, like really different than most styles. It's really fast paced. So bring a bag of popcorn and just try to take it in. But you can definitely see that, and I can definitely break it down. I'm hoping one of these weddings this year, I'm also doing a behind the scenes video on my YouTube as well. Just a full breakdown because I haven't seen a behind the scenes of an Indian wedding just yet. And I want to hopefully be the first and come in there with, you know, a lot of advice and a lot of good intel on that. We should be filming a couple of them in August. And then hopefully by this fall, we'll have some behind the scenes for you guys as well.
I love it. I love all of that. Any final words before we sign off for the day? I know you were just talking a bunch there. Anything else you want to add before we head out today?
I appreciate you, everyone reaching out. And like I said, when the first time I heard about someone charging $30,000 for a wedding, I thought they're insane. But the fact is, people are charging well above $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 for a wedding, and it doesn't have to be high-end luxury weddings. It doesn't have to be working with, you know, these luxury Italy planners. You know, it's out there. You just have to put yourself in the right spot. And like I said, a lot of people probably after listening to this podcast, there's no way this kid's charging some out. But yeah, it's just like at the end of the day, it doesn't affect me. But end of the day, it is possible. That's the one thing is if it is this pot that because there's the other girl the other day that she charges 20,000. And now I found that to be the norm in the higher end market. It is possible to charge these, you know, good prices, and you have to understand it's definitely quality over quantity. You have to definitely space out your videography, but your work also has to be there as well. You have to match that energy with that pricing as well. You can't just be charging $20,000 off the gate, of course, but it is possible to get into this market eventually, especially if you want to be in the market. You just got to keep working on it, and you will eventually get there, even if it's like without a planner. Because I would say that's like the biggest key for a lot of people is getting the trust of the planner. It's not about getting your foot in the door with the planner. It's just getting the trust with the planners. And to get that trust, you got to get that big portfolio saying, hey, I've done these weddings before. This is what I charge. Trust me. And that's usually what it takes. I'm working on a lot. Like 2 weeks from now, I'm going to Italy and then going to Greece after that and working with a lot of these European planners. I'm hoping to get in that market with them as well. So that's the plan for now. And if you guys want to follow along, please do so. I'd love to show off my work to anyone that wants to see it.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to tag you in the show notes as well as post a reel or two from this on our Instagram and tag your accounts there too. Seriously, thanks so much for the time, Atit. It was so cool getting to meet you. I wish you nothing but success, and we will 1,000,000% have you back on the podcast.
Appreciate it, man.
Well, that concludes this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. As a reminder, be sure to check out Weekend Project Studios over on Instagram. We're going to post them a link to their work in our show notes. But man, what a great conversation. If you want to hear more from Atit about Indian weddings or how he's charging, what he's charging, be sure to let us know in the comments. Be sure to send us a DM on Instagram at How to Film Weddings. and let us know what you think about this episode. I really do think that it is really cool to be able to find people from all over the world doing incredible wedding films, charging ridiculous amounts in order to inspire us to all get better. So if you're not part of our community, if you don't know about how to film weddings, be sure to check out howtofilmweddings.com. We have a Facebook group with over 15,000 people. We have weekly podcast episodes. We've got a course. We've got a mastermind group, all kinds of digital products. We offer pretty much anything if you're a wedding filmmaker. So be sure to check out howtofilmweddings.com. Guys, if you're still listening, you're the true, you're the committed. Thanks for being here. And until next time, we'll see you.